26 defines what an obligation is. It is a juridical necessity to give, do, or not to do. It is a juridical necessity because in the event of failure on the part of the debtor after demand is made and the debtor fails to comply with the obligation, then the creditor can go to court to seek fulfillment of the obligation. And in the event that fulfillment is no longer possible, then the pecuniary or economic value or equivalent of the object of the prestation plus damages shall be awarded to the creditor. That's why it's a juridical necessity. But as many authors said that Article 1156 is an incomplete definition of what an obligation is because it fails to present the side of the creditor. That to give, to do, or not to do, that would refer actually to the obligation of the debtor. To give, to deliver, to do, to render some service, or not to do, not to do a thing which is contrary to the stipulations in the contract. Now, for an obligation to exist, there must be the presence of three elements. The personal elements referring to the active subject. The active subject is the creditor or the obligee. It is called the active subject because it is he who makes the demand, the fulfillment of the obligation. And without that demand, the debtor is not compelled to do anything. That is why the debtor or the obligor is called a passive subject. He merely waits for the demand coming from the creditor. And precisely, even if the obligation is really due and demandable, but no performance is made by the debtor, subject to certain exceptions under 1169, the debtor cannot be held in delay because that demand is required, necessary to place the obligor in delay. So he merely waits, that is why it's passive. Now, the creditor need not be determinate at the time of the creation of the obligation. When we say determinate, it refers to one that is already segregated from the mass. So if we talk of people, if it is determinate, then there is one particular person that is already segregated from the mass. It becomes specific. But if it says from any members of the class of Viada, then it refers to an indeterminate subject because any of the members of the class, for as long as you're a member of the class, then you are held liable for that obligation. But if it refer only particularly to Mr. Verdad, then Mr. Verdad can be segregated from the mass and it is only upon him where the obligation must be performed, not by the other members of the class. Do you understand? Now, an example whereby at the time of the constitution of the obligation, the creditor is determinable, not determinate. Suppose the debtor at the time that the obligation was entered into issues a check, but the check is named to the pay to the order of cash or pay to the order of beret. So when that is received by the creditor, for the fulfillment of the obligation becomes due and demandable, it does not necessarily follow that the one who received the check payable to cash will be the very same person who would go to the bank and encash the check. Because it might be that the check will be negotiated by the creditor to another person. And that normally happens. One is in need of money of discounted. Kasi due and demandable December 25 pa. That's valid. So at the time that the check becomes due and demandable and is now presented to the bank for encashment, then the person who is holding the check is presumed to be the owner of the said check. But he is not the very same person who entered into the obligation. He was not the same creditor who entered into the obligation and received the check. So at the time of the fulfillment, it's now a different creditor. And he becomes determinate at the time that the obligation is to be fulfilled because it's already identifiable. It's already segregated from the mass. It becomes specific. The same holds true with the object of the prestation. Number 2 is object or prestation. It refers not to the object per se, but rather it refers to the particular conduct or manner that is to be observed by the debtor. To give, to do, or not to do. And the last is the juridical tie or the vinculum or the efficient cause. And this can be based by knowing the different sources of obligation. So what have you learned in your persons and family relations? What are the different sources of obligations in the law? So a perfect example is Article 68 of your family code, that the husband and the wife is to live together, observe mutual love and fidelity, and to render mutual help and support. That obligation to render mutual help and support is fixed by law. That support is can be correlated with Articles 195 and 199 of your family code, and those are obliged to support each other. And if there are 2 or more obliged to give support, then you apply Article 199. And an obligation, as when there are 2 or more persons who are entitled to receive support, the owner established it. Article 199 should be followed unless, it's the last paragraph of Article 200, the other recipient is an unemancipated child, then the latter shall be given preference. That is based on law. In legal separation, the court may order the offender to give support to the offended party. That is not a matter of right. It has to be given by the court. It has to be granted by the court. So that is based on law. Then we have contracts. Contracts are what you entered almost every day. When you go to the second floor, because you're hungry, and you ordered ramen, and that swakto, that is really a contract where parties are bound to the contract that they have entered. It is a bilateral agreement. As soon as you enter that second floor canteen, and you say, Ate, ano po ang ramen? You are the creditor. Why? Because it is you who made the demand. Plus, swakto. So, the salesperson complies with what you order. So you are the creditor. He is the debtor because she has to deliver, to give to you what you ordered. But as soon as this has been complied with by the debtor, the relationship is changed. You become the debtor with respect to the payment of the goods that you have purchased. And the salesperson becomes the creditor. And it is he who would demand, asa na imong bayad when the next week. Okay? So that is the example when you ride a public utility jeepney, when you hail a taxi cab, you use the taxi cab, there is already a contract created between you. So every day, you enter into a contract. When you borrow money from your seatmate, kaya wala kang pang Xerox, which is wrong because that's really machine copy. So there's already a contract that is perfected between you. Then we have quasi-contracts. We have discussed this when we're discussing Article 22 on unjust enrichment. Because I said, in quasi-contracts, there is no contractual relation between the parties. Especially in negotiating hestio, you become the officious manager, both ka, in managing the property of a third person, where no authority is given to the said party, which later on may become a contract of agency if the owner of the property that was attended to by the third person would now officially appoint the said person as an agent. Sige, every time na wala ako sa bahay, you do this particular act. So it becomes now a contract of agency. From without any contractual relation whatsoever, with a contract, there is now a contract of agency that is created. Then we have, of course, delict. We've discussed this under Articles 39 to Article 36 on the judicial question. So if you remember Article 29, in relation to Article 100 of the revised penal code, that every person who is criminally liable is civilly liable. And under Article 29, if no damages is awarded by the court to the offended party after the court found the accused not guilty of the offense charged because his guilt has not been proven beyond reasonable doubt, then the offended party can still seek payment for damages by filing a separate civil action for damages that is allowed, that is granted by the law to the offended party. Although, since there, that the defendant may require the offended party to furnish a bond in the event that the complaint is found to be malicious. Then of course we have the quasi-delict based on negligence. The law requires that the object of the prestation must be susceptible of pecuniary estimation. There must be that economic value equivalent. Why? Precisely because of that term judicial necessity, that in the event fulfillment is no longer possible, then the court